We go. We are recording.
Okay, thank you and welcome. So my name's Ann Bell and I'm the president of Swim Ontario. Very proud to be the president of Swim Ontario. Just a few housekeeping items. I'm going to ask everybody to turn their cameras off and put themselves on mute until such time if we call upon you to ask a question or to speak. We are recording this session, so we will be in a position to share it with those who haven't been able to attend, so keep that in mind. We also will be sharing the slide deck when we're finished. And well, so glad to have how many people? 24 right now, people joining us, and I suspect there'll be a few more come on. The agenda tonight, and Dean's gonna, he's the, yes, great. So I'm going to be doing a conference AGM update and discussion. Dean will be doing a technical update, return to operations, return to racing. Darren is here with us to do vaccination update. And we have Dan Thompson with us tonight to participate in a discussion about integration of master swimming. At the end of each section, we will be doing a Q&A to cover off any questions that you might have. And I would encourage you to put your questions in writing on the chat at the bottom. That'll help us gather our thoughts around questions that you might have. The other trick that you can do when it comes time for questions is to use the reaction tab at the bottom and put your hand up, because if you put your hand up, you come up to the top of the scale and I get to see that you're wanting to speak. Okay, Dean, next slide. Oh, he jumped way ahead. Okay, no, I think we got it. Great. So just a conference and AGM update. It was a big, busy week, and there were some people who attended particularly Dean, who attended every presentation and event and workshop, and many others. You'll see there that there were 26 topics delivered in 2,700 minutes of workshops, forums, and presentations, as well as an AGM. There were 40 presenters and 334 attendees. Registered attendees can access all events now. You'll find them on the Swim Ontario website. Selected presentations with information for members will also be posted over the next weeks. It's sort of when it's appropriate to have information on a particular topic, they will be shared at that time. The AGM itself was attended by 35 clubs, something we'd really like to grow in terms of attendance, along with invited guests. And so that's something that we will work on, but we did have a quorum, so that was good news. Okay, Dean, next one. And so this is the board that you have elected, and I think most of the board members are on the call tonight. Carlos Sale is the vice president, Jamie Pietzma, treasurer, Andy Mitchell is secretary, Robert Giggy is a member at large, Tim Barker is a member at large, and Janet Morrison is our new member at large. And just want to say that the retiring board member, Dave Schemmelt, one more time, a big thank you to David. He devoted a lot of time and expertise and dedication to his role as a board member, and we thank him for that service. Next slide. So the changes to the bylaws, and I guess, yeah, there were two main things we did. We elected a board and we had changes to the bylaws, were the key parts of the AGM. So there were three parts to those changes. They reflected changes to the Ontario law, which are coming into force this month, and that's around not-for-profit corporations. It allowed for an expansion of the board to 9 members, and so we have 7 now. We are not filling those 2 new positions until next year because we want them to be elected members, and it didn't seem like it would flow very well to suddenly increase the numbers and immediately have an election. I believe this is going to give us an opportunity, this expansion, at a very critical time, one when we do feel that we need more manpower, but also give us an opportunity to give some consideration in the addition of members who have some equity in terms of population groups and more women, other areas that we want to explore. The words aren't coming out there very well. And the last thing was the adjustment of a voting formula. So I wanted to have one slide to just describe that a little bit more, because I know there was discussion at the AGM about the wisdom of this change, and I want to explain it a little bit more. Voting at the AGM is only related to 4 things. It's the election of a board, the appointment of an auditor, the changes to bylaws, and when you're not in an AGM, the calling of a special meeting of the membership. Only then do the number of votes that a club has have an impact on the decisions of Swim Ontario. It does not have an impact on the member involvement in operational decisions. So the Board of Directors, aside from the AGM, they have a policy and governance committee. So they do look at the policies for governance of the organization. They have a nominations committee and they have a finance committee. And those are the only areas that board has some ownership over, but the board depends greatly on the CEO to be managing the organization. And in the structure that the CEO has, that's when he reaches out to clubs. And as many of you know, officials, coaches, regional directors, regions, in all of those cases, there's a potential for all clubs to be involved or to have a representative that meets with Swim Ontario staff. So I guess the assurance that I want to give the members is that the change in the bylaws around the voting is really related to governance issues, not operational issues. And I was involved in 2012 when we revised the bylaws and made the members clubs. Before that, there was a whole different description of members and it ranged all over the place. But at that time, what we really understood was that the focus of the organization is on the athletes. It's on the swimmers. They are really the people that are being served by the organization. But you can't have 14,000, God willing, athletes voting at an AGM. What you can have is the group that represents those athletes and represents all the services delivered to athletes and represents the officials and the coaches and the club presidents. So we made a decision to make the members, the clubs, the members of the organization. And in doing that, we want the clubs to represent the number of swimmers that they have. So next slide, Dean. That is why, and we've added this here for information, and this was provided in the AGM package to just explain the bylaw recommendations that were passed at the AGM, and it demonstrates really the number. I think the important part here is the last column in each section, in the middle section and the right-hand section, is the number of swimmers per vote, and how even with the changes that we make, our large clubs are still representing a large number of our athletes, but we've tried to move it up just a little bit more compared to the smaller clubs here. So I'm open to questions about this. And in fact, I think I'm at the end, Dean, of the presentation. Are there any questions about the AGM, about the AGM weekend that I can respond to now? If you put your hand up, if you do have a question, then okay, and you can ask it later. So Dean, it's over to you.
Okay, thanks, Anne. No questions yet, but here we go. So you've probably been to the website. You've probably seen that we've put our provincial event calendar. It's posted. It's a tentative, as always, or a draft, however you want to describe it. We felt that you know, and there's small changes always being made, but we felt that we need to get something out there, especially as we try and move forward. We have our provincial properties, the OJI, that we're pleased that we're able to. The plan is to deliver one, and the terminology I use is near normal. Might be a different terminology for others, but near normal of sorts. And last week's announcements has potentially helped that. We have the festivals. We have the Ontario Youth Junior Swimming Championships. We have the Ontario Swimming Championships. And we have the Masters Provincials. So those are the provincial properties that we're most focused in on, trying to make sure it's put in a place in the calendar that makes it as good a sense as possible. This year being challenged, just knowing whether some of these can be delivered, and a lot of it is on capacities, but things are looking a bit better towards that. 2022 Canada Games is going to be a focus for us. It was supposed to take place in 2021, but as most things were positioned later, the criteria will be out this week. The criteria will be for Olympic pool swimmers. So there's 24 of that. Sometimes we refer that to able body. There'll be 4 para swimmers and 4 Special Olympic swimmers. So a team of 32 will be selected later on in the next year between March and April. The criteria will spell that out. Another area that we've been working on, and the criterias will be put out, I believe, later this week, is our athlete funding criteria. And we have a senior component, we have a junior component, we have a Paralympic component. And this area, along with all the other somewhat programming pieces, were definitely reduced because of the budget constraints, because no revenue coming in, or very little revenue, and a lot of the revenue that we collect through gold bonus and things like that goes into supporting our performing athletes. And so that had to take a 50% reduction. So the criteria for seniors remains the same, just modified. The junior one, we were able, part of the strategic plan was to expand that. So we've gone to 8 junior cards, where it was 6 before, and Paralympic, we've expanded that to 6, where it was 4. So we're pleased that we're able to do that, part of the strategic plan, and keeping on track with that. Obviously, the levels of funding is changed just because of the circumstances we're in. We look forward to having in-person camps in November. We have November 19th will be a first in-person camp for 40 swimmers of Canada Games age. And that letter of invite will be going out shortly. And then we will also have a para camp, I think, a week later. So we're trying to get somewhat some normalcy in there, trying to venture on. Every step of the way is learning, because we've not done it for a while, but more or less, how do we do it within the conditions that we're in? TPASC has been quite good for us on that. I have here a Paralympic tour. First time for Swim Ontario to have a Paralympic tour. Usually it's small camps and and things like that. But one of the things is that they, as everybody's been impacted by not competing, not doing a lot of things for the last while, the para swimmers have not been able to do classification, and Swimming Canada has made classification as somewhat of an essential activity. And so they're hosting a classification and competition in December. So we will be identifying a group of Paralympic athletes who are in line for that classification and competition, and that will help establish the ones who are eligible for Canada Games, because there's criteria around that. And then just on operations committee, Ann talked a little bit about the standing committees or the board committees. Operations committees, we have those. It's in refresh mode right now, just the usual process after AGM. We're in refresh mode. We're slowly having meetings on that. We go through a process of if we need to add or we need to change, mix it up, people stepping off and things like that. So we will work on that. And based on that, when we mentioned the conference theme was reimagining Ontario swimming together. And part of this season will be that, trying to take stock and where, if there could be changes moving forward. No definite changes would be taking place this current season, but we'll be thinking about it, surveying the coaches, talking with coaches and others to see where some changes can be. Our big thing was just trying to return to some semblance of what we've had, to see what that looks like without too many changes. But one of the things we've been speaking with Swimming Canada is slowly launching out their performance plans, and their performance plans are definitely around the Olympics. The Paris Olympics, believe it or not, are only 2 years and 10 months away, and the 2028 Olympics in LA are only 6 years and 10 months away. So things are moving quite quickly. We will, as staff and as some of our committees, we will be working through to see where we can plug in to find our lane as a provincial sport organization to support the performance pathways to the junior teams, to the para teams, to the Olympic teams. So that's that. I put this last thing down here around notice of travel policy and form. It's been there, not always exercised. We learned back when the pandemic hit back in March of 2020 that many of the teams were away at training camps, and we knew most of them were where they were and what was happening because they did a notice of travel form. However, there were some we didn't know, so that was a little lesson there. But as we go through and the return to, obviously there's we were talking to a travel agent today, and she's starting to manage some training camps and things like that. You're going to have to be quite aware of things like that. Do the notice of travel, even if it's going to another province. We do have some teams that are in the Ottawa area. That's pretty easy to go across the bridge to Gatineau and compete and things like that. It's very important to do the travel notice of travel policy. The other thing is just understand insurance. Insurance game is changing. We're constantly trying to keep abreast with our broker, but also the insurance for travel, medical, out of country medical, what type of insurance. Obviously, there's going to be some increases to costs. You need to really understand and become very much informed. You have to have safety plans. You have to have contingencies. So it's a bit more complicated than it used to be. And so just giving you a little insight on that. Before I jump to the next slide, hopefully your clubs are starting to see this pin. Hopefully you can see that. I can't see myself, but hopefully you see this. This is something that we felt was important to help the clubs recognize people in your club. Maybe a great job done during the pandemic who rose above and beyond. And so, and it's a thank you from us, but it's also a thank you for your club to thank the people who made things happen. And it's based on the pillars of our strategic plan. So pandemic, I call them performance musing, and it's about, I mentioned about the Ontario, the conference and everything else, and where we want to try and be better utilizing the season to see where we land, see what things can be changed, see where we can, if there are changes that could influence and better our program, we want to be able to do that. So looking at 2023 and beyond to have that somewhat influence. And that will require some internally and externally pieces, inside and outside, move, basically to move forward with purpose and the fulfillment towards that sustainable success. So it seems like words, hopefully we'll be able to put some of these words into actions, or you'll see those actions. And this is a little bit looking at what took place. So we were able to have our performing swimmers, the Tokyo bound ones, able to train and able to compete this past summer. And I think one of the things that we saw that the values of resilience and adaptability certainly came into play. The swimmers rose to the occasion, not under normal conditions. Probably one of the harder of the sort of the high, the leading countries. We had probably the hardest position to be going into, but what it did show was, there's the importance of racing. However, the lessons from the pandemic have also shown us that we can perform with targeted racing, done at the right time and for the right reason. And I think what I just want to convey is that that's one of the things that we can take a bit of, solace in, that we can see that happening as the swimmers who have missed out for a period of time, they can get back to where they should be, and maybe, and definitely beyond that. The successful events are attributed to those who did get the race, no matter what the racing was, a race simulation or a time trial. Many of you are doing that now, and obviously unique competitive opportunities. Hopefully we'll see a fairly fast track to, I'll call it near normal. But one of the messages, and what I felt was really important, that no swim was wasted or race was wasted during this hard time. And every raced meter mattered. And that's something I think that we can, from a coaching point of view, take forward for the swimmers. A little bit to return to swimming, return to racing and things like that. Each little period of time, we publish something new with the shifting times. There'll be another one coming out. We have a meeting tomorrow, yes, to discuss some of the changes, definitely that fit to the new regulations. And so you'll see what I have here is maybe going to be a bit different than what you will read in a day or two. We do know that we will be pushing the capacity, lane capacity, from our perspective to 10 swimmers per short course lane, 12 swimmers per long course. Now, it all comes down to your officials, or to your, not to your officials, but to your facilities. And it's very important to keep those communications going. We have our communication process with our main facilities, our partner facilities, and you'll have to work through them. So there will be some different changes in physical distancing and so on and so forth. So that's coming. So what you see here isn't going to be what you'll probably read in a couple days. And then the same thing around our staged approach. I think it was a well done job by Nicole to try and put something into a visual with a process. It took on various reiterations through the process, a lot of guessing, a lot of planning for the unknown. But I think we're in a better position, as it says right here, under review, the capacity pieces. I think those are definitely the pieces that are changing, or that are be changing. So I think we're going to see a much better situation, that more swimmers will be able to swim at a certain time, to help get the business of swimming, or maybe part of that business platform, back in place. So hopefully you've been aware of this. Hopefully you're working with your facilities and getting your officials reactivated, and your swimmers need to be registered, and your coaches need to be registered. That's the wonderful thing about having swim meets. This is one way that we can get people that are on track. So all in all, if there's some questions, by all means, Anne, help me out. I can't see anything right now. So if there's any questions, by all means.
Whoops, just a minute. I'm getting my face back there. I'm coming and going. There I am. No questions here, but I have one, Dean.
Okay.
That always going to happen. I think we heard that there was a sense from some clubs that Swim Ontario is making the decisions about the limitations to the number of swimmers in the water, the number of the rules around training. And if I've got it right, and you'll correct me, please, is what we're doing is working with government officials and working with the rules and giving swim clubs an understanding of what it appears public health and the facilities will accept at this time. So it gives them some guidance so that they know what they're asking their facility or offering to their facilities. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We try and
We're
understand.
not making the rules. We're feeding to our members something that is acceptable to public health.
Well, it's in line with that. Obviously, when it comes,
Yes.
It is a fine line sometimes, because some facilities look to us to see what that is. So that's why you'll see that we
Yes.
sometimes we are pushing the boundaries a little bit to try and either encourage the facilities to do the same. So we've gone a little bit further on that piece of it. So.
Right. So here's something from Lisa Bloom. She has just said, our facilities allow no distancing during aquatic activities. And I'm
No.
not sure.
Oh, the physical distancing piece is not part of that?
Yes.
You can, yeah. So
Okay.
I guess my question would be, has that been forever? Because that really has only come in the last few days. Unless,
Right.
but we don't have the
Yes.
control, out of all the facilities.
Since
we don't-
July, she says. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I guess that's good for them.
Bonus.
I know.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So in other words, there could be facilities that are going to be in some parts of the province that are going to be quicker to respond to changing health conditions. But what we're presenting is what we understand to be a safety rule based on the provincial picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Basically, I mean, that's basically it. Yes.
So what Lisa's now just, sorry.
Trying to act cautiously, wise, also trying to get to move forward. So I'm not sure, you say understand from Swim Ottawa. I'm not sure what that means. And I see since July.
Yeah. So the question there is, who do we follow?
You have to follow your facilities, your public health, your facilities, your municipality.
Yeah.
That's really what you have to do. And if they're in doubt, then they may look at what we do, and some do, but some don't.
Let us know, Lisa, if you want to talk.
Okay, so
Unmute yourself.
we're pretty good on that.
Okay.
All right, we did some questions. That's great. Now moving over to Darren.
Thank you. So mandatory vaccination policies, there was a little bit of misconception. So the lawyers asked me to talk a little bit about that and clear that up. So we have two new vaccination policies, or proof of vaccination policies, actually. The first applies to Swim Ontario staff only. The second applies to participants age 12 and over and covers Swim Ontario funded activities. Those are not club activities. Those are specific Swim Ontario tour teams and swim meets and other Swim Ontario funded activities such as training camps, the OSA, the Para Swim Academy, and such. When it said Swim Ontario funded teams, that was specific to Swim Ontario programming. That's what we call our teams, as opposed to Swim Ontario member clubs. There's a very big distinction there. When we talk about our members, our clubs, member clubs, as opposed to teams, which are our tour teams and such.
So now we're wondering if there's any questions about vaccine policies, and I appreciate that clarification, Darren. I think that some members we're clarifying it because some members have taken the policies to reflect our direction to clubs. And the point you've just made, that it's not, it's the policies we've set. They might be used as examples by clubs, but they are policies for our properties and our staff.
Mike was asking, does the vaccine proof of vaccine policy apply to regional championships? No, in our policy, we listed specific events, and they're listed here under point number 3. OJI Ontario Swimming Championships and the Ontario Youth Junior Swimming Championships, as well as the Swimming Academy, the Para Swimming Academy, and all Team Ontario training camps and tour teams. That's the extent of the policy. It's actually very limited. And Pat had a question about spectators. That will be addressed in version 17 of our return to operations, which we anticipate will be published on Friday.
Yeah,
And
'cause
again-
we're just on 16, so 17 won't take that long.
Yeah.
So many
So,
iterations.
but when you say spectators, again, it's spectators at our events, not spectators at any of those other events.
There will be a broader definition about spectators.
Okay.
I won't comment on specifics because we haven't approved it at the staff level yet. Dean has to sign off on it. And until we get to that point, anything that I might say would be speculation.
Okay.
Next slide. So best practices for club members, and I know we're all over the map on this, where some health regions are following the provincial government proof of vaccination policy. Other health regions are going a little bit beyond that. Some facilities are following the legislation and checking people as they come into the facilities. Other facilities are downloading that onto the clubs. So we're going to talk a little bit about best practices for member clubs when the facility downloads that job onto you. And I do not envy you. It's not an easy job to do. So first and foremost, you must follow the requirements of your facility, which could mean anything from just providing the information to actually doing the job. As we know, vaccination is mandatory at all indoor facilities, sporting facilities for participants 18 and over. It's also mandatory in some health regions for participants 12 and over. Requests for accommodation or for medical or religious reasons need to be treated carefully, and especially with the accommodation for religious reasons or human rights accommodation need to be in consultation with legal advice. Next slide.
Okay, any other questions around vaccinations? All right, on to the next one, Dean.
All right.
Can I,
And-
and
oh,
can I
no.
just add one thing for those of you that haven't seen it yet on the website, the October 1st video from the conference where the lawyers were talking about vaccine policy and actually how to implement the procedure is a very good watch for all board members whose clubs are thinking of implementing their own proof of vaccination policy.
Perfect. And that's, you can find that under the conference tab on the main page. So, or on the heading of conference. It's good. Any other questions? All right. Anne, do you
Who's
want
going
the
to introduce
pleasure?
Dan? Yeah.
Sorry,
That's
there's a
bit- that's
question about,
Whoops.
sorry, there's a question about exemptions. And actually, it's not exemptions, it's accommodations. I was always saying exemptions before, but the correct legal term is accommodations. I would suggest that you consult legal counsel if you're approached for an accommodation one way or the other. And there's a couple reasons for that. Regardless of how a club may rule on an accommodation, several facilities having proof of vaccination policies may affect that accommodation. So in other words, if somebody goes to a club and asks for accommodation, they will also need an accommodation perhaps to get into that facility. So it's really important that you work with your facilities and work with legal counsel when dealing with accommodations.
Okay, thank you, Darren. And we can come back to questions at the end. Okay, with us is Dan Thompson, and Dan Thompson is a former president of Swim Ontario, a former president of Swimming Canada, been involved in many changes in the pursuit of swimming, and I know he also has an Olympic history that I don't pretend to have all the details of. But Dan is also a very active swimmer right now. And this is a guy who, according to Facebook, missed very little time in the open water during COVID. The guy was so anxious to get there that I saw a lot of pictures of him all dressed up in his wetsuit and everything. So he's an enthusiast, and here he's with us to talk about the opportunity in engaging master swimmers. Thanks, Dan.
Great. Thanks, Ann. And thanks, everyone. Good evening. I think it was 2017 that Swim Canada ended their relationship with Master Swim Canada and took master swimming into the policy fold of Swim Canada. And so that became a requirement for the PSOs to support master swimming from a kind of a pond podium approach. And so we had formed, I was the just incoming president at the time, we formed a master's committee, and we're thankful to have Dean as our staff support. And we worked on creating some guiding principles. So this is our guiding principle that we worked over a number of sessions. Master swimming promotes and supports fun, fitness, friendship, healthy living and competition for adults through swimming. So Ontario will promote, encourage, support, and grow master swimming in all forms in the province. Our goal is to be the leading resource for adult swimming in the province and to offer programs and services for adult swimmers in the province that are effective, inclusive, safe, and respectful and fun. And I think what we all have to remember is that 80% of those that are masters are just there to train, and they're there for the love of the sport. Only 20% compete. The other important, I think, guiding principle is the province that's done it the best has been Quebec. And Quebec for years and years and years has had integrated age group and master swimmers. And my pitch to you tonight is that the way we will grow master swimming, and I do believe there's great value in master swimming for the entire swim community, is to have more age group clubs to develop master's programs. So we want to talk a little bit tonight, maybe go to the next slide, Dean, about yeah, there you go, about what is the value, what value do masters swimmers bring to Swim Ontario. And I know there's always been a focus on sticking to your knitting, working on your age group club, growing your number of kids in the program, and there's always been challenges keeping that focus. And I think I'm here to tell you a little bit tonight that there is value in developing masters swimmers. You know, talk about some of the benefits. You know, that whole notion of the swim for life pathway, and I think it's the value that these athletes, they're either athletes like me that love the sport, or they're new multi-sport junkies that love swimming and running and want to be involved in their community. You know, and I think when we look at partnerships and getting pool time, building facilities, there's great value in having those with a little gray hair may be involved in your corner. And certainly the most in the US and Canada, the groups that really do a good job in building programs and building facilities are those that have active masters involved and multi-sport athletes involved from all sorts and descriptions. And I can tell you right now, I'm working on getting a new facility in Aurora, and certainly, our masters community working with all the aquatic stakeholders has really been valuable. I have a great example of this. We all have issue with warm water, and Sunday I walked into our pool, 85 degrees, air was very, very warm, and we were having issues. So 10 of us at the end of workout just turned to each other and said, okay, let's write the program director. And we got the temperature reduced about 1.5 degrees. We got another 0.5 degree to go, but certainly masters and lane swimmers and others can be great advocates in your community. And I think masters have a love for the sport, so they can be leveraged for fundraising that you might be doing in your environment, volunteering, and serving as officials. I don't think that's been properly exploited but I think there is great opportunity. I know that many of our masters have volunteered at the trials because they wanted to be involved. Care about our clubs and the value of the sport, of good coaches and officials. And one of the big changes that's happened is now you need to be with a certified sanctioned Swim Ontario program. You need to have a certified coach, which really didn't happen in the past. And many of the instances where local training groups that came together, they got some pool time, they didn't have the proper insurance, they developed programs. But now I think with COVID especially, that things are changing and more rigor in terms of the programming and the structure of the program is important. And so I think that gives us a great opportunity to grow masters swimming. Act as effective allies and team players in difficult conversations with pool management, whether it be securing pool time, rates, etc. So, find that there's a lot of good, thoughtful people in the masters realm, and that they can be leveraged by our clubs, and also revenue potential in terms of, and I know most of you will say you don't have enough time to begin with, but I think there is working with master swimmers is a great way to expand the programming and also bring in incremental revenue, etc. So let's go to the next slide. Now we developed this, we don't have to spend a lot of time, but this is looking at the member side as a master swimmer. What's the value? So certainly the health and fitness side, competition, again, it's only for about 20% of those. What we find is that what you need is leadership in terms of getting those to go and compete once or twice a year. Leadership and a program, an organized program. Masters teams and coaching certification, I think, has been a big add for Swim Ontario to bring that to masters swimming. With the requirement for certified coaches, some work that we've done with some clinic programs, webinars, I think has also helped. And just the social side of master swimming is very important, and certainly it's a big part of why people swim. We have done some clinics with the Swim Ontario Academy, which is fantastic, and also, as I said, the webinars, and also we've done things like 100 hundreds with at the Etobicoke Olympium with other masters clubs. There's been a lot of fun, but insurance is a big one, and I know that Dean will talk to this. The folding under the Swim Ontario umbrella has been important, and I think we're finding more and more with municipalities that they want all the programs to be aligned to the provincial swim organization. So having that umbrella is important. There are other organizations that have got independent insurance, but I think more and more municipalities are asking to have integrated insurance. And then, yes, we have partners and there's opportunities for discounts. Let's go to the next slide. That was just to give you from the view from the just one back one. Yeah, so where can members come from? Certainly parents of swimmers, they spend all their time watching the kids swim. Why not participate in this sport? Multi-sport enthusiasts, and it's not just triathletes, it's there's something called aquabike. There's people that are just into cross training and cross fitness. Certainly our club has has seen a lot of those lane swimmers, and certainly we spend a lot of time recruiting our local lane swimmers, retired club swimmers, and athletes seeking low impact exercise. Maybe they were runners and they've got joint issues. And, as we age, working in a supported environment in water is a great way to stay fit. Next slide. Yeah, so, what's the win-win for your club? So this being able to offer swimming continuity, grassroots kind of swim for life or pond to podium, however you want to say it, and being able to make that offer to the community. Community advocacy, and certainly the many communities I can describe where often it's master swimmers or lane swimmers or people who have a great love for aquatics that form advocacy groups and really make it happen. And often, but we are sometimes a little strident, so it's important that we buffer that with moderating influences. Whether in our community here, we're working with lane swimmers, with aquafit, with sport life saving, high school swim teams, you name it, to build support in the community, so they can certainly be good advocates. Additional revenue, we kind of talked to that. Shared coaching resources, having your age group coaches being able to coach a master's program, and sometimes they like it because they got to deal with a more mature audience, and it's some of them it's kind of fun and they enjoy it, and it gives them some variety to their coaching life. Adapted synergies just in terms of competitions and clinics and webinars and special events, being able to, potentially, why not? We could have time. You could have a time trial in the morning, you could have age group in the afternoon, you could have masters, and it could generate revenue. Now, there's a lot of work, I get all that, but certainly there are synergies. We did that with the AGI, where we, you had between heats and finals, we actually ran a masters meet, which was a lot of fun, especially at TPAS. So I think there's a lot of win-wins for age group clubs. I think we've got, and the next slide might show it, Dean. These are the integrated age group and masters clubs right now. So there's, I think, about 30 of them, but we have 140 clubs in Ontario. And the next slide is the masters only clubs. So this is a good group of clubs. They have their own independent boards, and they're not affiliated with the clubs, which is possible. But the growth strategy, and I think we were, before COVID and before the change, there were probably, don't quote me on this, but maybe 60 to 90 clubs, masters clubs. Now there's sort of 37, but a lot of those really were not properly affiliated and constitutionally organized clubs. So I think this is sort of a new world, and our way to grow masters is to grow it via age group clubs. And so that's our pitch for you tonight. Our committee is chaired by Katie Osborne. We've got a great committee. They've been quite dedicated, and I think our numbers this year are trending up. So we're really happy with that. And I think we're about 750, and we have a goal to get to about 1,500 swimmers this year. Any questions?
Dan, it's Anne. Just, I think it's worth, in my mind anyway, to just clarify that as I heard you say, the growth opportunity is through what are now age group clubs, and that's that longer list. Oh, great.
Okay, keep going.
Yep. Funny, we were hearing something about the recording. Just so there's no confusion when clubs are talking, there are clubs called Masters clubs out there that aren't affiliated with Swim Ontario and don't have the benefits. And they could be in a Y, they could be whatever, and it could be the Y's Master Club, or it could be such and such a Masters Club. And not to think that that's what clubs are being asked to consider. They're just, this is an affiliated, a club that's already affiliated with Swim Ontario could just go ahead and add Masters as a group. They're still a club. They can still have it's their same board. It's not an add-on of anything except a program with the benefits of bringing in more keen people who have a capacity, right?
Yeah, and I think everyone's aware that now we have Swim Ontario sanctioned programs, and then we have Master Swim Ontario, which is an independent organization that has a series of clubs and they are non-sanctioned. They cannot run a Swim Canada sanctioned event. And so they exist and we coexist, but because of the infrastructure of Swim Ontario, the coaching certification, the insurance, we think we offer a better program, and we want to, over time, evolve the swimming community to be one family under Swim Ontario, Swim Canada and Swim Ontario.
And Pat's question here from Mac really speaks to what we've just talking about. She says, what is the process to add a master's program to a club's Swim Ontario profile affiliation? Maybe that's a Dean question.
Yeah, that's a Dean question.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Darren because he's on the new club process. Not that it needs to go through a new club, but it was, I'll let Darren speak to this.
Actually, the process is very simple. You just let Heather know that you would like to be an integrated Masters club. And it's really that simple. It doesn't even require a significant change application. So it's actually pretty simple.
And what's the individual swimmer fee around a master swimmer?
$30, $31, $35, 31.
$35. $35, yeah. So it's really about registering master swimmers and organizing a program for them, right? And letting Swim Ontario know that you've got those folks in. Okay, somebody said, Mike Carnegie says, we did it in Ancaster this year. It was easy.
Great. Yeah, we've
Thanks,
had a number
Mike.
of clubs join this year, which is fantastic.
Any other questions about this or any of the other topics? Well, Dean, we might be done. Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think your enthusiasm and your hard work over the last couple of years is coming to fruition. I remember all those meetings at Swimming Canada with the Masters group. So this is great.
Good.
Dean, over to you.
Keep swimming, everyone. I'm going swimming Lake Simcoe tomorrow. So there you go. Hopefully the weather.
They do it in the daylight. Good for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. Always a true advocate for swimming and definitely Masters, but really for swimming. So thanks very much for the presentation. I think, as we said, there's lots of information that's on the website. We will have a refresh website very soon. And on there is the information from the conference. If you are a registered person, I believe, Anne, you mentioned this early on, an hour ago, but the information's there, and we're slowly making the other talks, or the talks, available to non-registered people. So anyways, take full advantage of that. There's some really good talks in there around diversity and inclusion. There's a great discussion with our Paralympic athletes and our Olympic athletes. It was a really fun session on that. So there's lots and lots of good things. Judy Rigi talks about leadership, future of leadership. Really good talk, and this might be something for your whole club, or at least your club leadership. So, the other thing I would just ask is that we feel that these moments in time to get together and discuss things. I mean, obviously this is a one of those things that came out of the pandemic. And we know that as the pandemic sort of gets in our rear view mirror, that you know, you'll become busier with life and busier with real things going on. But we do need to still stay in touch, and this is a pretty good way of doing it. We've shown that we can run an AGM virtually and have good participation. So we want to continue to do that, not on a regular basis, but maybe every 3 months. But what would be great is if there are some topics, please let us know. Give Anna a shout or give myself a shout if there's certain topics that might be worthwhile, that that's probably on our radar, but we just haven't brought it to the surface yet. That will help motivate us. So that's pretty much it, Anne. I'm excited. Things are starting to make a turn for the better. Our registration numbers are looking quite promising, and I think that's reflective of what's going on in the clubs. And we will slowly start to see our competition calendar fill up and get on track to where we'd like to be. So that's it for me. Thank you, Darren, for adding the very good information about the vaccine mandates and all those pieces of information that really helps the dry side of the organization and the protection of the organization and the protection for the clubs. So thanks very much. And Anne, thank you.
Okay. All good. And as we said at the beginning, we're going to post this. You can tell your colleagues that this recording will be posted. Okay. Thanks, Dean.
Super.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.